The year was 2002, and Brazil had just won a record-breaking 5th World Cup title. They were currently in the second golden age of Brazilian football, the first, of course, being in the 60s and 70s, when Pelé won the first, second, and third World Cup for Brazil over the course of 12 years. After a World Cup win in 1994, a runners-up finish in 1998, and now their 5th win in 2002, they were looking to reach a record-breaking 4th World Cup final in a row. Leading up to the 2006 World Cup, they had even won the 2004 Copa America and the 2005 Confederations Cup. The Brazilian squad was clearly the best at the tournament, with a Ronaldinho in his prime winning the Ballon d'Or in 2005, Kaká, who would win the Ballon d'Or in 2007, and Ronaldo, who was looking to break the World Cup scoring record at this very tournament. In the lineup, they also had Dida, Captain Cafu, Lucio, Roberto Carlos, Gilberto, Zil Roberto, Juninho, Adriano, and a young Robinho. Brazil were obviously favorites to win the tournament, and anything but a 4th straight final would be an absolute failure. There was nothing to suggest that they wouldn't achieve this goal, but then, inexplicably, they met with the champion's curse. And so Brazil arrived in Germany ready to play their opening 3 group stage games at the tournament. One of the teams in their group were the reigning Oceanic champions, Australia. While they had been the champions of the Pacific Ocean many times before, they had only made it to one previous World Cup, the 1974 tournament hosted by Germany. Now 32 years later, they qualified for their second ever World Cup, once again hosted by Germany. They were one of the worst teams ranked at the tournament and were expected to get bottom of Group F. Up next were the reigning Asian champions. Japan had been one of the co-hosts at the last tournament, and this was their 3rd World Cup in a row and in total. They had had a good campaign 4 years ago, making it to the round of 16 before they were eliminated by fellow underdogs and eventual bronze medalists, Turkey. They had a fairly good squad and might be able to surprise a few teams at this tournament. They were aiming for 2nd place in the group. The final team in Group F was the only team to not be the current reigning champ of their continent. Like Japan, Croatia had been at their very first World Cup in 1998 and had qualified for every single one since. In their debut tournament, they had actually finished 3rd place. This time, they looked to be the favorites to go through the group with Brazil. It'd be with this Croatian side that Brazil would kick off with in the opening game of the group. While it was a close game, it was decided by a long-range effort from Kaká. Brazil would get an expected 3 points to start off their campaign, although they were second in the group due to their goal differential compared with Australia's, who had just beaten Japan 3-1. On the second match day, Brazil would get to play Australia to claim their spot on top of the group. Ronaldo would slide it through to Adriano, who would stroke it home with his left foot to put Brazil 1-0 up. Later on, a great shot from Robinho would go off the goalkeeper and the post before Fred tapped it home. Brazil would win 2-0 and they would be top of the group, guaranteed to qualify to the knockout stage, and almost guaranteed top spot. In their 3rd match day against Japan, they didn't even play a full-strength side. They would concede their first goal of the tournament as Tamaga hit a great shot to the top left corner. Could this be the start of the curse? Well, it didn't seem so, as Ronaldo would head home this goal shortly after for his 13th World Cup goal, one away from the current record. In the second half, Juninho would try this strike from way outside the box, putting Brazil 2-1 up. A great ball from Ronaldinho would free up Gilberto to hit it down into the bottom right corner. For Brazil's 4th goal, Juan and Ronaldo would connect multiple times to give Ronaldo the opportunity to score his 14th World Cup goal, equaling the record with Müller. 7 goals scored, 1 goal conceded. Brazil were top of the group as expected and were heading on to the knockout stage. No sign of a curse just yet. With the group stage behind them, Brazil looked ahead to the knockout round of the World Cup. The bracket was set, and the teams Brazil would have to play to win their 6th title were becoming clear. In the round of 16, they would have to play Ghana, who were at their debut tournament. In the group stage, Ghana had beaten the currently number 2 ranked team in the world, Czech Republic. The odds that they would be able to do the same to the number 1 ranked team in the world were very slim. In the quarterfinal, Brazil were either going to have to play France, a team who had gotten 2nd place in their group behind Switzerland, or Spain, who had gotten 9 points in Group H. Both of these sides could be a little bit of a challenge, but nothing the world champions couldn't handle. For the semi-final, there were a handful of European sides that they could face. Portugal had not been a seed at the tournament, but they had beaten Mexico and were now playing a good Netherlands side. England could be Brazil's opponent in the semi-final, although 4 years ago, Brazil did take care of them in the quarter-final, so it wasn't anything they should worry about. But before they could take care of these European opponents, they first had to take care of the African debutants. Ghana's strategy for the Brazil game was clear: play a very high line. This did not go their way. Kaká would place a ball through to Ronaldo, who was onside, and after he dribbled past the keeper, he would score his 15th World Cup goal, breaking the all-time World Cup scoring record. Once again, Ghana were punished for their high line. Kaká would find Cafu on the right side, who would send it in to Adriano, making it 2-0 to Brazil. In the second half, they would once again be punished, as Zé Roberto ran straight through the middle of the Ghana defense and made it 3-0. With 10 goals scored and only 1 conceded at this tournament, Brazil were heading on to the quarterfinal. Now, the bracket picture was becoming a bit more clear. Brazil would play France in the quarterfinal, and in the semifinal they would play either Portugal or England. Portugal had received many suspensions and injuries in the round of 16 game against Netherlands, so they shouldn't be too much of a problem if they made it through. Brazil could now look on to the other side of the bracket. Ukraine were a surprise addition to the quarterfinal, and they were playing Italy. Although in the round of 16, Italy had struggled to beat the same Australia side that Brazil had taken care of quite easily. It was the two teams in the other quarterfinal game that might give Brazil some trouble if they met in the final. Germany had been tough opponents in the 2002 World Cup final, and if Ronaldo hadn't been on such fine form, Germany might have been able to win it instead of Brazil. Argentina could be even more of a problem, as it was this side that took Brazil all the way to a penalty shootout in the 2004 Copa America final. If anyone was going to give this Brazilian team problems, it looked like it would be their fellow South Americans. Brazil stepped out in the Frankfurt Stadium to play their first difficult game of this World Cup, a quarterfinal against France. Brazil were excited to get some revenge against Les Bleus, for it was France who beat Brazil 3-0 in the World Cup final in 1998. After Ronaldinho was chopped down by Vieira just outside the box, Juninho would send it over the bar. From another free kick, Juan would have an acrobatic shot, but he was called offside. Then Cafu would find Ronaldinho in behind, but he too was offside. But so far, all the chances had gone Brazil's way. From yet another free kick, Ronaldinho would find Ronaldo at the back post, but he was unable to find the French net. With France's first corner of the game, Zidane would send it in to have Dida clear. Then Ribéry would have a wild strike well into the crowd. Later on, another ball in from Zidane, but the header wouldn't be able to find Dida's net. After some fantastic dribbling by Zizou, Vieira would be tackled by Juan, meaning that he would miss the next match. From the resulting free kick, Henry's shot would be blocked by a Brazilian arm, resulting in a second free kick just on the edge of the box. Nothing would come from it, and at halftime in Frankfurt, it was 0-0. Brazil had controlled the first 25 minutes, but it had been all France since then. Yet another Zidane free kick, but with the same result, Vieira heading it just wide of the left post. As France kept knocking on the door, they would find the back of the net, but Henry was clearly many yards offside. But if Brazil wanted to get to their 4th World Cup final in a row, or even the semi-final, they had to wake up. And then, just short of an hour into the match, it happened.
Up there. So is Thuram, so will be Gallas. Danger now, here's a big chance! France have the lead! Thierry Henry has stooped for the glory, and it's Brazil 0, France 1.
Zidane found Henry at the back post, no one marking him. In fact, the player that was supposed to be marking him, Roberto Carlos, had been tying his shoe at the time the free kick was taken, leaving Henry wide open. Brazil now had 30 minutes to save their World Cup. Ribéry found some space in the right corner, and as he sent the ball in, Juan almost sent it into his own net, and Zidane wasn't close enough to finish it off. With Brazil's first chance since they went behind, Ronaldinho would find Robinho in the middle of the box, but he couldn't find a good shot. Then Ronaldo would find some space, but he pulled the shot wide right. Brazil still didn't have a shot on target in this match. After a corner was defended well by France, Lucio would have a volley, but he hit it up into the stands. Into the final minutes of the game, Ronaldo would have a dribble going before he was taken down just outside the box. Ronaldinho would have the chance to bring them level, and it was just a yard too high. With the last chance of the game, Ronaldo would send in a bouncing shot at Barthez, and it would be saved. The game would end, and France had taken down the world champions. Brazil may have scored 10 goals and only conceded 2 at the 2006 World Cup, but in reality, they had fallen at the very first difficult game they had played. France hadn't even won their group, tying Switzerland and South Korea, and 4 years ago, they hadn't even scored a goal at the World Cup. Now here they were, snuffing out Brazil's opportunity to make a record-breaking 4th straight World Cup final. There was nothing Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Kaká, Adriano, or Cafu could do. They were going home. One of the greatest Brazilian generations of all time had got eliminated at the same round that Ukraine had. While Brazil may have not been affected by the Champions Curse as much as the other teams, they still should have done much, much better. This was a side that could have won the World Cup in their sleep, and yet after 4 easy games, they fell at the very first hurdle that would have given them some difficulty. Ronaldinho hadn't even scored a goal at the tournament, and he was the reigning Ballon d'Or winner. It's no doubt that if they played to the level that they could have, they would have been in the final against Italy, and they probably would have won it quite easily. Speaking of Italy, they would win the World Cup against France a week later. It was their 4th title, meaning that they were now only 1 behind Brazil. 4 years later, they were expected to have a fruitful campaign in South Africa, quarterfinals, semi-final, maybe even repeating as champions. There was nothing to suggest that they wouldn't have a good tournament. Right? Hey, thanks for checking out the video. If you'd like to learn more about the Champions Curse, then check out the playlist right here. And if you'd like to learn more about the Portugal side that made it all the way to the semi-final in the 2006 World Cup, then make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the Underdog series that will be starting pretty soon.